W5FC.
Good evening, everyone. This is Virginia in V5F. I will be your net control for Skynet this evening, starting at 9 p.m. So if anyone needs to use the repeater before we begin Skynet, please do so now. Thanks a lot. This is NV5F.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is Virginia. My call sign is NV5F, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in the topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? The directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. Any stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. There should be a link to our YouTube feed there. You can also go to YouTube and look up Skynet. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement about Skynet and click on the hot link right below the title and the picture to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too if you want to do over the air or Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts, including general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, What's Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next 2 days, astronomical Q&A if we have time, and a 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. As of this moment, we currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. That would be Tom, KE5ICX, Bill, N5BD, me, Virginia, ND5F, Bill, W5BLT, Brenda, WB5OZL, Cody, K5MCD, Robert, AA5AH, Chaz and Bob the Cat, KF5JHA, Dale, N5LIG, Travis, KI5PGM, Tony, NT5TM. So that's a pretty good group so far. Checked in online. Now let's start with voice check-ins. Starting with short time check-ins. This is for people who are checked in for just a small amount of time and want to get on the list before they have to check out. So if you are a short time check-in, please come now with your name or your call sign, your name and your location.
November 5, Mike, Romeo Golf, Dan in Farmersville, Texas.
Okay, for a short time we have Dan, N5MRG in Farmersville. Thank you so much for checking in with us on Skynet. All right. Round 2 is general check-ins for on the air for RS. If you are regular check-in on the radio, over the air on the radio, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI.
Ted, Dallas, low power, long time.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, AG5 PM.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, Mesquite. This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, it's Gus, far northeast Dallas. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton, KG5, WVL.
Okay, that's a pretty good group. So for regular check-ins, we have WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas, AG5PM, Rich in Rockwall, KF5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, Clay in Mesquite. I somehow missed your prefix. I can't remember what your first part of your call sign is. So just come with your complete call so I can get it correct. I'm looking for Clay in Mesquite 5, Oscar Foxtrot. Can you please give me your prefix?
This is Inside BD with a fill-in.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Clay's call is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot. November 5, Oscar Foxtrot. Don't know where he disappeared to.
Okay, thank you, Bill. For some reason, when he said his first letter, it was obscured, and I appreciate that, Bill. Next, we have W5GUS, Gus in Dallas, and KG5, WVL, James in Carrollton. So that's who we've got so far. Let's see. So next, we will take Echolink check-ins. If you are on Echolink and you haven't already checked in some other way, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard for Echolink. I apologize. I have not pulled Echolink up yet, so I am not aware of anyone who is there but just not checked in by voice. So I will try to get that up and going here in the next few minutes. Alrighty, next. Anyone, anywhere, check-ins all around, RF, Echolink, short time, long time, anything you got, please come with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot. November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay of Mesquite.
Kilo 5, Alpha Lima, Rocky and Fort Worth, no traffic.
Alrighty, thank you, Clay, for your clarification, and we've also added Rocky in Fort Worth, K5AL. Thanks for checking into Skynet. Again, my name is Virginia. My call sign is NV5F. I'm your net control for Skynet this evening, and it is time for our general announcements. Do we have any general announcement for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now if you have announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Please let us know what you got.
Hey, Virginia, I have been chased off the air by pets, so I'm not sure if 6 meters is still open, although the evening was going pretty well. The ARRL VHF contest is going on right now. One of your antennas, even if it's not really a 6-meter antenna, almost certainly loads up on 6 meters. Give it a try. If the bands are closed now, try again, either before or after breakfast tomorrow. Your choice. It's so hard to find people trying to do weak signal work on 6 meters and 2 meters. You shouldn't pass this up if you can. If you can do FT4 or FT8 or one of those other digital modes on your HF radio, that HF radio probably offers 6 meters. Try it. Just give it a try. See who's out there. Tomorrow morning should be especially good. Now, if you want more fun before waiting for morning, we have that. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on the movie Equals from 2015. Also, let's just imagine that you love VHF, but you have no interest in talking to people far away just because the band is open. Well, that's fine. We've got you covered. We have a VHF Fox Hunt going on tomorrow morning. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Fox Hunt will be active from about 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. tomorrow. All the foxes are within 1.5 miles of White Rock Lake. More details at wa5wrl.org. At least one of our fox masters is in town, so unlike June 1st, this hunt hopefully will not be canceled, and there should be 3 or 4 foxes out tomorrow. And finally, please don't forget that there is a meeting on the air tomorrow at 7 p.m. and a Racy's training net tomorrow at 8 p.m. It's a busy radio weekend. It's not field day yet, but there's a lot of stuff you can do. Beat the humidity, play radio instead. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Appreciate the announcements. Other things that are going on are the AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available for Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them on amateur radio. This National AMSAT net brings the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. The way you'd access that net is through Echolink. You can find the net under groups, and the search AMSAT should find you that net on Echolink. Also, there is a live audio link available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There are also 2 local AMSAT nets available in the Dallas area. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins, and you can ask questions of the net control as well as the others who are checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, 110.9 PL tone. Tuesdays, Tom in 5HYT is the usual net control, and all are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there won't be an AMSAT East net that night. AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington Club repeater 146.14 megahertz, TL tone 110.9, positive offset. We also host a number of exciting nets on this repeater. I am not going to list them all in the interest of time. There are a lot of them. Every evening at 6:30 we have the ARRL traffic net here. Every Monday night there's some kind of cool net going on. After the traffic net, every Saturday night we have TechNet and Skynet and Afterglow net at 10 o'clock after this, or 10:30 after this net is over. If you want to find out about all the nets available, please go to W5FC.org and click on the tab that says DARC nets. There's a whole synopsis and list of all these nets that are available here. This is a very active repeater. Again, I'm Virginia. My call sign is NV5S. And speaking of the Afterglow movie net, which is right after this one, tonight's Afterglow info on the movie we will be discussing this evening is the movie Equals 2015, and let's see if Tom, KE5ICX, our fearless leader of Afterglow, is available to give us this wonderful synopsis. Go ahead, Tom.
With the best of them. Today was no exception, and he had movie scripts and books laid out before him. Brave New World, check. 1984, check. THX 1138, double check. A dozen more but less known works also lay scattered on the floor. Scott even had the New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle. He had an answer to 7 across. It was a 6-letter word for Ridley Scott's last movie script, to which Ridley Scott immediately scribbled the obvious answer: boring, B-O-R-I-N-G. But he faced a dilemma. How could he spice up a well-worn dystopia plot with the standard derivative monochromatic wardrobe, unmotivated actors, and underfunded not-so-special effects? The answer was naked people. Join us for a trip down the well-traversed dystopia lane with Equals from 2015 tonight at 10:30 p.m. And if you would like to see part of that film, you can go to the link on the DARC website. There's a hot link for the movie if you dare. It's free. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Again, the movie is Equals from 2015, and it is available on TubiTV.com. Also, don't forget we'll have a special Skynet in-person viewing of Colossus the Forbin Project from 1970 in HD at the DARC Field Day location, Saturday, the 28th of June at the YMCA Johnson Outpost, 3325 Valley View Lane in Farmers Branch at 10:30 p.m. Bring your favorite snack or try some of ours. Everyone is welcome to attend. It's free and fun. It's artificial intelligence gone amok, but in an entertaining way. I and HAL 9000 will both be there. We'll discuss the movie the following Saturday on the air at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. We currently have the following people checked in via W5FC.org. Let me check that, see if there's any new folks who have joined us. Let's see. No, we're all caught up. Let me double check. Hold on. Sometimes I have to reload it. Nope, we're all checked. We're all caught up there, it looks like. So, all right, Google, thank you for popping things up in my way. Yeah, looks like we have everybody checked in there on the website. So, if anyone else would like to check in by voice, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard, but it is vacation season. I was on vacation last week, and I'm glad my time here on Skynet lined up with that because I would hate to have missed this. All right, next we have Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. This is brought to you by Chaz, so take it away, Chaz.
Thank you, Virginia. I still think I should be checked in 3 different times because of doing it electronically over on Echolink and now on the radio. So anyway, and Bob the Cat 3 times too. In person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and there's also a Zoom component. Now, the Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights because Saturday nights is the public observing sessions for TASS. On the second Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Frisco. Now, that's a long way away for the repeater to, well, for someone to hit the repeater, but maybe somebody is on Echolink or maybe some other mode. If you'd like to make a check-in from the stargazing site, please come now with your call sign. I'm not sure. It was partly cloudy the last time I looked outside, so maybe it was canceled. But, yeah, we could see some things through the clouds. All right. You can check the TASS website, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Virginia, I'm out to lunch all the time. Does that count? This is KF5JHA.
All right, thank you, Chaz. I'm sure that counts. And I am trying to log on to Echolink, and I do see that you and Bob are checked in. I will count each of you 3 times. That will make our check-in count look really, really good. Again, this is Virginia. My call sign is NB5F, and I'm your net control for Skynet this evening. Next, we have National Space Society events and activities, brought to you by Bill on N5BB. So go ahead with your announcements, Bill.
Well, thank you, Virginia. Doesn't Bob the Cat have 9 lives like most cats? If so, he should count for a lot. Okay. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the Vice President and Membership Director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. I can be reached at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just search for National Space Society of North Texas in the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The last chapter meeting was held on June the 8th. A presentation topic for this meeting was space welding research by UT Dallas professor Dr. Our meetings are also available virtually over WebEx. Contact Bill, N5BB, if you'd like to attend. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held this coming week, June the 19th to 22nd in Orlando, Florida. So which starts here this coming Thursday. And I will not be here for Skynet next Saturday because I'll be at the ISDC in Florida. So I'll be there along with several other members from North Texas at ISDC in Orlando. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 7 people attended the May 30th Space Rendezvous event. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday evening, June the 27th. On Saturday, July 19th, the National Space Society North Texas chapter will participate in the Moon Day event at the Frontiers of Flight Museum in Dallas. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at his QRZ-listed email address or at space@barham.net. And that's all I've got, Virginia. This is N5BB. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Looks like there's a lot of good stuff coming up. Next we have Brenda, WB5OZL. She will bring us recent astronomical discoveries. So go ahead, Brenda.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. We'll try again. The title of this article is Black Holes Could Act as Natural Super Colliders and Help Uncover Dark Matter. As federal funding cuts impact decades of research, scientists could turn to black holes for cheaper natural alternatives to expensive facilities searching for dark matter and similarly elusive particles that hold clues to the universe's deepest secrets. A new Johns Hopkins study of supermassive black holes suggests the findings could help complement million-dollar research expenses and decades of construction needed for research complexes like Europe's Large Hadron Collider, the largest and highest energy particle accelerator in the world. One of the greatest hopes for particle colliders like the Large Hadron Collider is that it will generate dark matter particles, but we haven't seen any evidence yet, said study co-author Joseph Silk, an astrophysics professor at Johns Hopkins University and the University of Oxford, UK. That's why there are discussions underway to build a much more powerful version, a next-generation super collider. But as we invest $30 billion and wait 40 years to build this super collider, nature may provide a glimpse of the future in supermassive black holes. Particle colliders smash protons and other subatomic particles into each other at nearly the speed of light, exposing the most fundamental aspects of matter. Subtle energy flashes and debris from the clash could reveal previously undiscovered particles, including potential candidates for dark matter, a critical but ghostly component of the universe that scientists have yet to detect. Facilities such as the Large Hadron Collider, a 17-mile circular tunnel, have also helped transform the internet, cancer therapy, and high-performance computing. Going to reset. A black hole can spin around its axis like a planet, but with much greater strength because of its intense gravitational field. Scientists are increasingly discovering that some rapidly spinning massive black holes at the centers of galaxies release enormous outbursts of plasma, likely because of jets powered by energy from their spin and surrounding accretion disks. It's these events that could potentially generate the same results as human-made super colliders, the new study shows. If supermassive black holes can generate these particles by high-energy proton collisions, then we might get a signal on Earth, some really high-energy particle passing rapidly through our detectors, said Silk, who is also a researcher at the University of Astrophysics in Paris and at the University of Oxford. That would be the evidence for a novel particle collider within the most mysterious objects of the universe, attaining energies that could be unattainable in any terrestrial accelerator. We'd see something with a strange signature that conceivably provides evidence for dark matter, which is a bit more of a leap, but it's possible. The new study shows that plunging gas flows near a black hole can draw energy from its spin, becoming much more violent than scientists thought possible. Near a rapidly spinning black hole, these particles can chaotically collide. Although not identical, the process is similar to the collisions scientists create using intense magnetic fields to accelerate particles in the circular tunnel of a high-energy particle collider. Some particles from these collisions go down the throat of the black hole and disappear forever. But because of their energy and momentum, some also come out, and it's those that come out which are accelerated to unprecedented high energies, Silk said. We figured out how energetic these beams of particles could be, as powerful as you could get from a super collider or more. It's very hard to say what the limit is, but they certainly are up to the energy of the newest super collider that we plan to build, so they could definitely give us some complementary results. To detect such high-energy particles, scientists could use observatories already tracking supernovae, massive black hole eruptions, and other cosmic events, Silk said. These include detectors like the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in the South Pole of the Kilometer Cube Neutrino Telescope, which recently detected the most energetic neutrino ever recorded under the Mediterranean Sea. The difference between a super collider and a black hole is that black holes are far away, Silk said, but nevertheless, these particles will get to us. And that's it. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Alrighty, thank you, Brenda. Appreciate your topic for this evening. Sounds really cool. Next is the discussion topic of the evening, and since I'm net controlled, that is up to me. And my choice this week is Jupiter and Europa news. Jupiter is my second favorite planet in the solar system, and its moon Europa is also an old favorite of mine. So I just looked up some things that were on that topic, and I've got three little stories here that hopefully they're fairly up to date. There seems to always be something going on with Jupiter. So the first one is from caltech.edu, and the headline is, Jupiter was formerly twice its current size and had a much stronger magnetic field. So, understanding Jupiter's early evolution helps illuminate the broader story of how our solar system developed its distinct structure. Jupiter's gravity, often called the architect of our solar system, played a critical role in shaping the orbital paths of other planets and sculpting the disk of gas and dust from whom they formed. In a new study published in the journal Nature Astronomy by Konstantin Batygin, PhD, professor of planetary science at Caltech, and Fred C. Adams, professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Michigan, provide a detailed look into Jupiter's primordial state. Their calculations even reveal roughly 3.8 million years after the solar system's first solids formed, a key moment when the disk of material around the sun, known as the protoplanetary nebula, was dissipating. Jupiter was significantly larger and had an even more powerful magnetic field. Our ultimate goal is to understand where we come from, and pinning down the early phases of planet formation is essential to solving the puzzle, Bettigan says. This brings us closer to understanding how not only Jupiter, but the entire solar system took shape. Bettigan and Adams approached this question by studying Jupiter's tiny moons, Amalthea and Phoebe, which orbit even closer to Jupiter than Io, the smallest and nearest of the planet's four large Galilean moons. Because Amalthea and Phoebe have slightly tilted orbits, Bettigan and Adams analyzed these small orbital discrepancies to calculate Jupiter's original size, approximately twice its current radius, with a predicted volume that is the equivalent of over 8,000 Earths. The researchers also determined that Jupiter's magnetic field at that time was approximately 50 times stronger than it is today. Adams highlights the remarkable imprint the past has left on today's solar system. It's astonishing that even after 4.5 billion years, enough clues remain to let us reconstruct Jupiter's physical state at the dawn of its existence. Importantly, these insights were achieved through independent constraints and bypassed traditional uncertainties in planetary formation models, which often rely on assumptions about gas opacity, accretion rate, or the mass of the heavy element core. Instead, the team focused on the orbital dynamics of Jupiter's moons and the conservation of the planet's angular momentum, quantities that are directly measurable. Their analysis establishes a clear snapshot of Jupiter at the moment the surrounding solar nebula evaporated, a pivotal transition point when the building materials for planet formation disappeared and the primordial architecture of the solar system was locked in. The results add crucial details to existing planet formation theories, which suggest that Jupiter and other giant planets around other stars formed via core accretion, a process by which a rocky and icy core rapidly gathers gas. These foundational models were developed over decades by many researchers, including Caltech's Dave Stevenson and Marvin L. Goldberger, Professor of Planetary Science, Emeritus. This new study builds upon the foundation by providing more exact measurements of Jupiter's size, spin rate, and magnetic conditions at an early pivotal time. Bettigan emphasizes that while Jupiter's first moments remain obscured by uncertainty, the current research significantly clarifies our picture of the planet's critical development stages. What we've established here is a valuable benchmark, he says, a point from which we can more confidently reconstruct the evolution of our solar system. The paper is entitled Determination of Jupiter's Primordial Physical State. Funding was provided by Caltech, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation, the National Science Foundation, the University of Michigan, and the Line Weber Center for Theoretical Physics at the University of Michigan. And again, this is Virginia. My call sign is NV5F, and I am your net control for this evening's Skynet. Next, from Yahoo News, we have James Webb Telescope spots weird changes on Jupiter's icy moon Europa. You'd think the icy worlds are frozen in time and space because they're, well, icy. However, planetary scientists know that all worlds can and do change, no matter how long it takes. That's true for Europa, one of Jupiter's four largest moons. Recent observations made by the James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, zero in on the European surface ices and show they're constantly changing. Dr. Ujwal Raut, there's another fun one to say, of the Southwest Research Institute, SWRI, reported on the changes reflected in the JWST studies. Not only does Europa's surface have amorphous ice, but there's evidence of crystalline ice scattered around there. that indicates the presence of an active water source, such as the subsurface ocean. It also points toward geologic processes that affect the surface. The changes seen at Europa are very short-term, perhaps 2 weeks in some places. Our data showed strong indications that what we are seeing must be sourced from the interior, perhaps from a subsurface ocean nearly 20 miles or 30 kilometers beneath Europa's thick icy shelves, said Rose. This region of fractured surface materials could point to geologic processes pushing subsurface materials up from below. When we see evidence of CO2 at the surface, we think it must have come from an ocean below the surface. The evidence for a liquid ocean underneath Europa's icy shell is mounting, which makes this so exciting as we continue to learn more. As a Galilean moon, Europa orbits near the planet and within its strong magnetic field. Thus, the surface gets bombarded by radiation. It is tidally locked, meaning it shows the same face to Jupiter as it orbits. Europa has a rocky and metallic interior covered by an ocean and topped by an icy shelf that's fairly young in geological terms. It appears to be no more than 180 million years old. That tells us it has been resurfaced from within. JWST's spectral studies of the surface show that the ice crystallizes in different ways in various places. Generally, water ice freezes into hexagonal crystals. That's what we see on Earth when it snows or when rain freezes. However, Earth's surface is largely protected from outside influences, such as radiation, and the ice stays in crystalline form much longer. On Europa, charged particles trapped in Jupiter's magnetic field bombard the surface. That disrupts the crystalline structure of the ice, turning it into amorphous ice. If that's all that ever happened to Europa's surface, you'd expect to see amorphous ice everywhere. Instead, the JWST spectral studies showed evidence of crystalline ice. There are also other surface units, such as ridges and cracks. Radiation doesn't explain them, but other processes can create them. Combined with the new data collected by JWST, Rowett said they are seeing increasing evidence for a liquid ocean beneath the icy surface. Scientists thought that Europa's surface was covered by a very thin, perhaps half-meter thick layer of amorphous ice protecting crystalline ice below. The new evidence of crystalline ice on the surface also shows up in other areas, especially an area known as the Terra Regio. According to co-author Richard Cartwright of the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, the surface may be different than expected in places. We think that the surface is fairly porous and warm enough in some areas to allow the ice to recrystallize rapidly, said Cartwright. Also, in this same region, generally referred to as a chaos region, we see a lot of other unusual things, including the best evidence for sodium chloride, like table salt, probably originating from its interior ocean. We also see some of the strongest evidence for CO2 and hydrogen peroxide on Europa. The chemistry in this location is really strange and exciting. The CO2 found in this area includes the most common type of carbon with an atomic mass of 12 and containing 6 protons and 6 neutrons, as well as the rarer, heavier isotope that has an atomic mass of 13 with 6 protons and 7 neutrons. That raises questions about the origin of the CO2. It is hard to explain, but every road leads back to an internal origin, which is in line with other hypotheses about the origin of the 12 CO2 detected in Terra Regio, Cartwright said. So how is water forced to the surface? There are 2 main sources of heat at work, tidal heating and radioactive decay at the core. Both of these processes warm the subsurface ocean and force water to the surface. What causes the chaotic terrain seen at Europa in such places as Terra Regio? There are several possible ways. One way is through the formation of chaos regions. those places that appear to be cracked and jumbled. They could be the result of material forcing its way via diapers. Think of them as stovepipes from below that convey warmer water and slush up to the surface. Once the water gels to the surface, it freezes rapidly into the crystalline ice, JWST, detected. The water also brings up dissolved CO2 and other materials. The field of exoplanet studies continues to grow by leaps and bounds with over 5,900 confirmed discoveries to date. Thanks to the improved methods, instruments, and next-generation telescopes, this field is transitioning from exoplanet discovery to characterization. This is one of the main science objectives of the James Webb Space Telescope, and it has not disappointed. Thanks to the Webb's advanced optics and sophisticated instruments, scientists can directly image exoplanets and gain new insights into how they form and what their atmospheres are composed of. In particular, Webb has enabled the study of young planetary systems that are still in the process of formation in infrared wavelengths. In a recent study, okay, it looks like we've gone on to the next headline. I apologize, I didn't make that break. So the next one is from Universe Today, and it's Webb shows another Jupiter forming in real time. So I didn't realize it moved on to another one. Okay, so let me restart that. So this is about a planet that's similar to Jupiter that the JWST has detected. The field of exoplanet studies continues to grow by leaps and bounds with over 5,900 confirmed discoveries to date. Thanks to improved methods, instruments, and next-generation telescopes, the field is transitioning from exoplanet discovery to characterization. This is one of the main science objectives of the James Webb Space Telescope, and it has not disappointed. Thanks to Webb's advanced optics and sophisticated instruments, scientists can directly image exoplanets and gain new insights into how they form and what their atmospheres are composed of. In particular, Webb has enabled the study of young planetary systems that are still in the process of formation in infrared wavelengths. In a recent study, a team of astrophysicists reported the detection of two giant planets around the sun-like star YSES-1, over 310 light years from Earth. Using Webb's near-infrared spectrometer, the team was able to image these two young planets in extraordinary detail and detected the presence of silicate clouds in their atmospheres. Studying these planets provides new insights into the early phase evolution of planetary systems. The study was led by Dr. Echolink K.W. Hotch, an astrophysicist and Giacconi Fellow, and multiple colleagues from the Space Telescope Science Institute. They were joined by researchers from the Institute de Estudios Astrofísicos, the Millennium Nucleus on Young Exoplanets and Their Moons, the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy, the Lunar and Planetary Lab and Leiden Observatory, the California Institute of Technology, the Observation de la Côte d'Azur, the Observatoire de Paris, and the European Southern Observatory, the European Space Agency, the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and multiple universities. Studying young systems is vital to understanding how the solar system came to be. By observing planets form in real time, scientists can determine what chemical ingredients were present and how long the process took. Previous studies have revealed much about young planets, including indirect evidence of clouds, photochemistry, and diverse chemical elements. While brown dwarfs have also been observed directly, it was impossible to image young exoplanets before Webb. Given that YSES-1 is still young, about 27 million years old, Any planets observing the star will still be warm, making them detectable in infrared labeling. Using Webb's NIR SPEC instrument, the researchers obtained broad spectra from the atmospheres of two giant exoplanets around the young star, designated YSES-1b and C. The team's results showcased the capabilities of Webb, which provided the most detailed database of a multi-planet system to date. As co-author, Dr. Everett Nezkin, a postdoctoral fellow in Trinity College, Dublin School of Physics, said in a TCD press release, "When we looked at the smaller, farther out companion known as YSES-1c, we found the telltale signature of silicate clouds in the mid-infrared, essentially made of sand-like particles. This is the strongest silicate absorption feature observed in an exoplanet yet. We believe this is linked to the relative youth of the planets. Younger planets are slightly larger in radius, and this extended atmosphere may allow the cloud to absorb more of the light emitted by the planet. Using detailed modeling, we were able to identify the chemical composition of these clouds, as well as details about the shapes and sizes of the cloud particles. Overall, this work highlights the incredible abilities of the JWST to characterize exoplanet atmospheres with only a handful of exoplanets that can be directly imaged. The YSES-1 system offers unique insights into the atmosphere's physics and formation processes of these distant giants." The team also noted the presence of a circumplanetary disk around YSES-1b, one of the two giant exoplanets. This could be material accreting onto the planet, which could lead to the formation of moons, much like the icy moons orbiting Jupiter, Saturn, and the other gas giants in the solar system. So far, only 3 other such disks have been identified around objects significantly younger than YSES-1b, raising new questions about how long circumplanetary disks exist. As Dr. Hodge noted, these observations present opportunities to learn more about how the solar system formed billions of years ago. The YSES-1 system planets are also too widely separated to be explained through current formation theory, so the additional discoveries of a distinct silicate clouds around YSES-1c and small, hot, dusty material around YSES-1b lead to more mysteries and complexities for determining how planets form and evolve. This research was also led by a team of early career researchers such as postdocs and graduate students who make up the first 5 authors of the paper. This work would not have been possible without their creativity and hard work, which is what aided in making these incredible multidisciplinary discoveries. This is Virginia in D5FC, control for Skynet this evening, and those are my Jupiter and Jupiter-related headlines. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation before we continue? Please come now with your call sign. Okay, next we have What's Up? What to Look For in the Sky with Chaz, KF5JHA. So, take it away, Chaz.
Thank you very much. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Right now, Bob the cat is ignoring me, but you know that's going to change while I'm in the middle of this, I'm sure. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and then beyond. That was slide number 2. Slide master, that would be Tom. He's our slide master. If you don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube version of the video version of Skynet is over there. So just go to the W5FC.org website, click on the link, and you can watch the video version of Skynet. Anyway, slide master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of star T Corona Borealis, which could erupt at any time. It's supposed to have erupted maybe a year ago, but it hasn't. It is currently at a brightness of about 10th magnitude. I just checked that a few hours ago. Well, that's much too faint to be seen with just your two eyes. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. And I can see the North Star with just my two eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4. Now, this is an image of the sun that was taken on Thursday, just a couple of days ago, June the 12th, from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you could use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. That's not what the sun should clip on. This level in a maximum I've got on June the 11th, the moon was full, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On June the 18th, the moon will be at its will be at its 3rd quarter phase. On June the 22nd, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 363,178 kilometers. On June the 25th, the moon will be new. On June the 2nd, the moon is at its 1st quarter. That will be a nice phase of the moon for fireworks on July 4th. Oh, speaking of July 4th, the moon is at apogee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that's furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,627 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. Okay, this is my marathon of what's going on over the next couple of weeks. On June the 16th and 17th is the peak of the June Lyrid meteor shower. You can see a few meteors per hour. Most of the time, you'll see most of the meteors the hour just before dawn. Now, to get detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 7. On June the 17th, there's a conjunction of Mars and Regulus in the western evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 8. On June the 19th, there's a conjunction of the Moon and Saturn and Neptune in the early morning sky. You'll need a telescope in order to see the planet Neptune. Nope, binoculars won't work. You'll need a telescope at least to see Neptune. Slide Master, slide number 9. On June the 20th at 9:42 p.m. Central Daylight Time is the summer solstice for the Northern Hemisphere. This is the longest day and shortest night for the entire Northern Hemisphere. The sun will set the furthest to the north that it will, and it'll rise furthest to the north that it will. Wow. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 10, please. On June the 22nd, in the eastern early morning sky, there's a conjunction of Venus, the planet Uranus, and the Pleiades star cluster. Now, you need a pair of binoculars to see Uranus. You might be able to see the Pleiades with just your two eyes, but your view of the Pleiades will be greatly enhanced with binoculars. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. Now, on June the 22nd, in the evening sky, that would be the western evening sky, there's a conjunction of Mercury and the bright star Pollux. Pollux is in the constellation of Gemini. Slide Master, slide number 12. On June the 26th, you can observe the moon in between the planet Mercury and the star Pollux in the western evening sky. Binoculars might be needed to see all of them. Slide Master, slide number 13. There's another meteor shower. The June Boötes will peak on the night of June the 26th, 27th. You'll see a few meteors per hour, but it could be up to 100 meteors per hour. We're not quite sure how many you'll see until after it happens, so I'd go out and make sure you take a look. Most of the time, you'll see those meteors, most of them, the hour before dawn. Once again, Go to IMO.net, that would be the International Meteor Organization, or AMSmeteors.org, that's the American Meteor Society, to get more details. Slide Master, slide number 14. On June the 27th, there's a conjunction of the Moon with M44. That's also known as the Beehive Star Cluster in the western evening sky. The planet Mercury is close by. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you need a fill or have a question. Maybe other people are on vacation, who knows? Okay. So, slide master, slide number 16. As the moon wanes right now, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least right now. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Now back to our net control. Virginia, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Gus. Appreciate the update on what's going on in the sky. And next we have Gus, W5GUS, with space exploration news and space history for June 8th through the 14th. So, go ahead, Gus.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. W5GUS here. Let's start off here with exploration news, June 8th through the 14th, and it involves the James Webb telescope also, and several of these items. In a first-ever discovery, scientists have detected water ice surrounding a young star that closely resembles our Sun. This finding provides direct evidence supporting long-held theories about the presence of water in the early stages of solar system formation. The discovery was made possible by the James Webb Space Telescope, which observed the star located about 155 light-years away. It's a relatively young star, it's just 23 million years old compared to our Sun, 4.6 billion years, and unlike our mature solar system, this star is still enveloped by a protoplanetary debris disk, which is a ring of dust and ice that has yet to coalesce into planets. Using a near-infrared spectrograph, researchers from Johns Hopkins identified crystalline water ice in the debris disk. This form of water ice is similar to what is found in the rings of Saturn and icy bodies within the Kuiper belt of our own solar system. Let's see, unambiguously detected not just water ice, but crystalline water ice. Emphasize that this water ice, this form of water ice, plays a vital role in helping planets form. And the icy material also may ultimately be delivered to terrestrial planets that may form over a couple 100 million years in systems like this. All right, we'll go on to another solar system planet here, Mars. A team of researchers have uncovered intriguing evidence suggesting that a mountain on the rim of Mars' Jezero crater could be a long-hidden volcano. This discovery published may hold key insights into the planet's volcanic history and the potential for ancient Martian life. With the help of data from NASA's Perseverance rover and multiple Mars orbiters, scientists have brought forward compelling evidence that Jezero Mons might not just be a mountain. Mars is a planet of mystery, with its surface marked by vast craters, deep canyons, and strange geological formations. Among these features, Jezero Crater has always intrigued scientists, largely due to the potential to have once held water. Researchers have long suspected that the prominent peak on the crater's rim might be volcanic, but conclusive evidence had been elusive, that is, until now. Scientists have confirmed that Jezero Mons shows characteristics similar to known volcanic formations on Mars and Earth. The mountain size and shape mirror those of volcanic features that are on Mars and even Mount Sidley in Antarctica. These similarities provide solid evidence that the feature might have been formed by volcanic activity. All right, let's go on to space-related birthdays here. We've got some interesting ones. Stanley G. Love was born June 8, 1965, and he was on STS-122. Drew Caffney, June 9, 1946, STS-40. And going way back, Johann Gottfried Geil was born June 9, 1812. He was a German astronomer, became the first person to view and identify the planet Neptune. All right, a little more modern birthdays here. James McDivitt, June 10th, 1929. He was on Gemini 4 and Apollo 9. James Van Hosten was June 11th, 1944, STS-41 and STS-51. Ronald Grab, June 13th, 1945, STS-51, STS-30, STS-42, STS-57. All right, that's the last birthday. Let's move on to this week in space history. June 10th, 1969, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, MOL, is a joint project of the U.S. Air Force and the National Reconnaissance Office, was canceled by Richard Nixon. Let's see, and the project was developed from early U.S. Air Force concept of crewed space stations, crewed with a crew, that is, space stations as reconnaissance satellites, and was a successor to the canceled Boeing X-20 Dynastar military reconnaissance space plane. Plans for the MOL evolved into a single-use laboratory for which crews would be launched on 30-day missions and return to Earth using a Gemini B spacecraft delivered from NASA's Gemini section and launched with the laboratory. But the loss of the MOL was NASA's gain. 7 of the mission's astronauts that were scheduled for the MOL went on to fly on shuttle missions. Okay, June the 11th, 1957, the U.S. Air Force launched the first Atlas rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The Atlas, a path-breaking design in many ways, was being developed as an intermediate-range ballistic missile. On this first test flight, the missile lost thrust approximately 24 seconds into the flight due to a failure of the booster fuel system and it began to loop around itself. Less than a minute after the initial launch, the missile was detonated at an altitude of 5,000 feet. And despite the missile's failure, this launch provided valuable information regarding the airframe and propulsion system. And after a challenging development program and numerous modifications, the Atlas was ready for military use. A later version of the Atlas was used to launch John Glenn in Friendship 7 and all subsequent Mercury flights. Interesting that a Atlas war rocket was launched the Friendship 7 and all the Mercury flights. The launch of the prototype Atlas, although it was a failure, but it was an important step in the American journey toward human space flight. Okay, June the 11th, 2008, the Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope launched as the Gamma Ray 1 Large Area Space Telescope. The telescope was renamed in honor of the Enrico Fermi, a pioneer in high-energy physics. Fermi observed the cosmos using the highest energy form of light, which is gamma rays, mapping the entire sky every 3 hours. Fermi provides an important window into the most extreme phenomena of the universe, from gamma ray bursts and black hole jets to pulsars, supernova remnants, and the origin of cosmic rays. Okay, the last item here on this is going to be the NASA signed the contract with the David Clark Company for the development and manufacture of the Gemini space suits. The total cost, including fixed fee and the contract, was only $829 million. Over the next 3 years, the David Clark Company worked with NASA to develop several modified designs for use on Gemini. You may be most familiar with the G4C suit developed in 1965, was worn by astronaut Ed White during his Gemini 4 EVA, the first U.S. spacewalk. Let me correct that number. There's $829,504. $829,504. That's more like it. Okay, it was used by the Gemini 4. The NASA-David Clark relationship did not end with Project Gemini. The David Clark Company went on to develop the Apollo Communication Center carrier, the Shuttle Launch Entry Suit, and the Shuttle Advanced Crew Escape Suit. Okay, let's move on to to our constellation of the week. So back to you, Virginia, W5GUS.
Okay, thank you, Gus. And this is Virginia NV5F for Skynet. And next we do have Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week with Chad, KF5JHA.
Thank you, Gus. Thanks for you, Virginia. Slide Master, slide number 17. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Scorpius, the Scorpion. Now, Scorpius is a constellation of the Scorpion, and it's one of the few constellations that actually looks more or less like what the creature is supposed to represent. The best-known mythology regarding Scorpius has the Scorpion as the mortal enemy of Orion, the mighty hunter, Orion boasted that there was not an animal on Earth which he could not conquer. To punish him for his vanity, the goddess Juno decided to send the scorpion to spring out of the earth and sting Orion, killing him. At the request of the goddess Diana, Orion was placed in the sky among the stars. Scorpius is also placed in the sky, but at a point exactly opposite Orion in the sky, so that when Scorpius rises, Orion sets, and vice versa. So the two are never seen in the sky at the same time. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 18. Okay, this is one of the most important parts of Skynet. It's the jokes of the week. Now, if you're over there on Echolink, you can actually boo and hiss in the chat session, or applaud, or thank me. You know, it's up to you. These are usually related to the constellation of the week. Here we go. The Scorpion killed Orion in a battle, and both were placed in the sky. Fill in the blank. What did you say next? They were placed in the sky as a Constellation prize. Come on, that was funny. Imagine you're about to be attacked by a giant scorpion. What do? Stop imagining it. What do you call a scorpion that has just scored a goal? That would be a scorpion. The astronomer said, I don't believe in astrology at all. All right, fill in the blank there. But I am a Scorpio, and we are all born skeptics. What do you get when you cross a scorpion and a fish? How about a stingray? And the last one in the sequence, here we go. Now, when I do that at the Astronomy Club meetings, they always applaud because it's the last joke of the evening. Yeah. I walked into the house and spotted a scorpion. It watched every step I took. All right, fill in the blank here. Scorpion must have been a sting operation. Oh, come on. That was okay, wasn't it? Slide Master, slide number 19. The brightest star in Scorpius is Antares, which is Alpha Scorpii. Literally means the rival of Ares, Ares being the Greek name for Mars, so it's often translated as the rival of Mars instead. Its name comes from the fact that it looks so much like Mars because of its red color and the fact that it shines at about the same brightness that Mars does much of the time. During those times when Mars is in the Scorpius Ophiuchus region and near Antares, the two make quite an interesting pair. Antares is the first magnitude M-type red star. It's also a supergiant star, which is so huge a star. Let me see. If Antares were placed in the center of our solar system instead of our sun, the entire orbit of Mars would be inside that star. Not to mention Mercury, Venus, and Earth. You know, if we were inside that star, we would be toast. You know, Texas toast. My friend Dennis Hardwell says that with this in mind, Antares and Mars, if they're rivals, my money would be on Antares. Yep, I guess so. Antares is also a double star. It has a faint companion that is slightly over 2 arcseconds away, shining somewhere around 5th to 6th magnitude. It requires good optics and good seeing conditions and good weather to be able to see. The color of the companion is often reported to be green, although it actually is a bluish color. The next star is Akrab, or Beta Scorpii. It means the scorpion in Arabic. Beta Scorpii is also a double star, which is easier split than Antares, earning it a place in the double star list from the Astronomical League Urban Club. Also, it's a star type B, or a bluish white, and not too much contrast in between those two stars. Slide Master, slide number 20. One of the most famous objects in Scorpius is M4. It's a globular star cluster, and it's a single object. M4 is listed at 5 different Astronomical League Observing Program clubs. M4 is fairly easy to find since it is the same low power field of view as Antares and nearby Sigma Scorpii. M4 is more sparsely populated than many other globular clusters, but it's pretty bright, so binoculars is all you really need. Some photograph shows a denser vertical bar of stars across the center of the cluster. Visual observers have seen this as well. In his book, The Messier Object, Stephen James Amira likens the vertical bar to a slitted pupil of a cat's eye. Oh, Bob would be interested in that, Bob the cat. Slide master, slide number 21. M80 is another globular star cluster. It's not as big or bright, but it is easy to find M80 because it's simply draw a line from Antares to Beta Scorpii, and then M80 is very close to the midpoint between these two stars. M80 is a smaller than M4, just said that, but it's more densely populated star cluster, globular cluster. Due to the small size, in a 3-inch telescope at low power, it has almost a star-like center, with only a bit of faint wispiness making the outer edges. And a larger 8 to 10-inch telescope, the outer regions of M80 are better resolved into stars, but the core looks solid white in many observers with even a moderate-sized telescope. Slide master, slide number 22. M6 and M7 are the first 2 M objects that I've ever found with my own 2-inch Tasco telescope a long time ago. M6 is an open cluster that's long been known as the butterfly cluster because many observers see the shape of a butterfly formed in the stars. The cluster is about 100 members, and it's an open star cluster. It's about 26 arc seconds in diameter, just slightly smaller than a full moon's diameter. Slide master, slide number 23. M7 is a naked eye M object. M7 is sometimes referred to as the Ptolemy cluster because it was first written in the records by Claudius Ptolemy back in the 2nd century. M7 is easy to find since it's visible to the naked eye. Look for the fuzzy patch of light off the stinger of the Scorpion. And this is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 24. Now, there's a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of Scorpius, the Scorpion. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 25, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Scorpius the Scorpion. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Hercules, the strongman. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying good night, 73. Back to our net control. Virginia, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Chaz. Appreciate it. You always do a good job with 2 segments here. All right, and next we have space launches for the week with Tom, KE5ICX. And Tom, if you want to go ahead with the space launches and the satellite passages, that would be super in D5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX. I'm just going to give you a few for the launches and then jump into the ISS passes. There's a bunch of those tonight. Let's see, June 15th, we have an Atlas V launch of the Kuiper 2. This is from SLC 41 at Cape Canaveral. This is at 1:25 p.m. Eastern Time from Florida. The Atlas V rocket and the 551 configuration will launch a second batch of 27 Project Kuiper satellites for Amazon. The mission is referred to as Kuiper Atlas 02 or K02 by Amazon. This is another communications constellation similar to Starlink. And speaking of Starlink, we have on June 16th, 17th overnight, Starlink 15-9. This will be from Vandenberg SLC-4E. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. A little more after 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster will target a landing on the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. Then let me skip on over to visible satellite passages over the next few days. And with that one, we have several ISS passes, which I think you'll find quite interesting. We have on June 16th, brightness of magnitude minus 1.1. This will be at 5:19 in the morning out of the south-southeast. Reaches highest point at 5:21 at just 12 degrees, and it will fall to the east at 5:22. Then on the 19th, we have a much nicer pass. This is minus 1.9 magnitude at 4:31 a.m. out of the southeast. Reaches highest point at 4:31:42, about 30 seconds later at 21 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 4:34. Next up, we have June 20th. That one will be minus 3.3 magnitude. This is a good one here. This will be at 5:17 a.m. out of the west-southwest. Reaches highest point at 5:19 at 52 degrees, and it will fall to the northeast at 5:22. Then we have on June 21st, this one will be a minus 3.9 magnitude, 4:30 a.m. out of the south. Reaches highest point at 77 degrees at 4:30:52. And it'll fall to the northeast at 4:34. And then finally on June 23rd, this one is another nice pass, minus 2.5 magnitude. This will be at 4:29 a.m. It'll be out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 31 degrees at 4:30. So it's just a little bit in the shadow, so it'll be a little late coming over the horizon before you see it, but that's okay. And it'll fall to the north-northeast at 4:33. Now, normally I would give you Tiangong, which is the Chinese space station with 3 tachynauts on board, but it is not in a favorable position this week or next, so I can't give you any passes there. So with that, I'm going to leave it. Oh, by the way, if you want to find additional information on this, you can always go to heavensabove.com, plug in your longitude or latitude or your city. It includes even local cities like Louisville, and it will give you all of the flyover information as well as amateur satellites. So no special Kuiper software required. Just go to the website, plug that stuff in, and it will spit out the numbers that you want to see. Back to you, Virginia. This is KE5.
Okay, thank you, Tom, and we're just about to the end. I don't see any additional check-ins online, but are there any additional on-air check-ins for Skynet before we finish the net this evening? Please come with your call, your name, and your location.
Kilo India 5 W5FC. Kilo India 5
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, I heard a Kilo India 5 Zulu something. You're real crackly, so see if you can improve your conditions. Try to come again with your suffix and your name if possible.
Kilo India 5 Zulu Mike.
Okay, I got Kilo India 5 Zulu Mike X-ray, and I'm gonna just be happy with that. Since we are at the end, thank you very much to everyone who has checked in for Skynet tonight. We had, let me see if I can do a very quick count of all of our ham tonight. We had, it looks like 20 hands checked into Skynet this evening. Thank you all who checked in for joining us. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all of the other DARC nets. And if you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls, or you can send an email to net@w5fc.org. Until next Saturday night, this is NV5F, Virginia, and I will be closing the net at, looks like, 10:31 or so local time, and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. In about 5 minutes, we will gather here for the Afterglow movie net, so everybody has time to take a break before we return. 73, everyone, and enjoy this evening discovering the universe. Thank you so much. This is NV5F.
This is N5MRG. I had a question regarding the Dallas Amateur Radio Club 220 repeater.
I didn't hear the whole question, but I heard somebody say the magic words, 220 repeater.
Yeah. Good evening. I've been lighting up the 220 band here. We have three 220 repeaters on the air, and I've been listening to the 224.88 repeater and checked in quite a bit, and I noticed there's very little activity over there. I was just kind of curious what's the status on the 220 repeater and kind of where is it located, you know, the operating conditions, so on and so forth. Over.
Sure, it definitely works. It is located in north central Dallas near the SMU campus. I do try to listen to it during the day, but the radio is in a room where our birds have gone to bed, so I'm not on there tonight. I don't think it is very busy. That's kind of an understatement. It's not busy, but it is still working. At least it was working earlier today.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, it works quite well. I'm actually located in Farmersville, and it has a very decent signal up here. It's got a good footprint. But anyhow, I would encourage anybody on here to try 220. I mean, 220 is kind of the best of both worlds. It works very well with a portable inside your car, kind of like UHF does, and has the same coverage area as 2 meters, if not better. So there you go.
I agree with you, and I support that opinion, but unfortunately, not everyone has a 220 radio, so all of our big popular nets are here at 14688. Although we can link the two if someone has trouble reaching it or we get a jammer or so forth, but you're making the repeater just fine, so I don't think that's happening tonight. But yeah, it's a great advertisement and one I support. And I should be quiet in case they start the Afterglow net. NT5TM.
Yeah, I would recommend, I would advise that you, when you have a net, that you link the two just to stir up some activity. You know, if we don't use it, we'll lose it. Like we've lost the lower 2 megahertz portion of that. So anyhow, that's just my opinion. And like I said, we have 3 220 repeaters on the air here, and 6 meter repeaters. I'm running 7 repeaters I've run. So, been doing so for about 30 years now. So, anyhow, thanks for coming back to me. We'll catch you later. Send 5 MRG in Farmersville.
Okay, N5MRG. I have written your call sign down. I'm November Tango 5 Tango Mike. Tony here in East Dallas. I do have a 220 station and a fairly high gain antenna, so maybe we can work each other on 220 soon. NT5TM, clear for net.
Okay, all right. What was the name?
Tony, Tango Oscar November Yankee.
Okay, Tony. All right. Name here's Dan. All right. Hope to catch you on 220. We'll catch you later. N5MRG is clear.
NT5CM clear.
Okay, well, we all know what time it is. It's time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Yay. So this week's movie is from 2015, and it was produced by, what's his name? Mr. I can't think of his name. Well, it gets late at night, and I get tired, and I can't remember things. But Ridley Scott, that's who it is. Ridley Scott was the executive producer on this thing. So you can imagine that's the guy who did Blade Runner and a few other films, Alien, a few others that you may have remembered and have seen, which means that it had some good production values. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about the film. This comes from Wikipedia. It says Equals is a 2015 American science fiction romantic drama film. And it was written by Nathan Parker, by a story from the Remus, whoever that is. Starred Nicholas Hawks and Kristen Stewart, the two people living on a dystopian post-apocalyptic world where all the people are robotic, emotionless workers, and any sign of emotions is treated as a disease. That sounds like some of the movies we've actually watched, except that those were accidental. Additional roles were played by Guy Pearce and Jackie Weaver, and one of my favorites, David Shelby, who you may remember from Dark Shadows as Quentin Collins. I remember from that. Didn't say anything for 6 months on that show, just scared people for 6 months, Monday through Friday. So at any rate, the story goes, the film was, world premiere was 2015 at the International Competition of the 72nd Venice International Film Festival. At its North American premiere and special presentations in 2015 at the Toronto International Film Festival. So it's an art house film. The film was released on May 26, 2016 through, are you ready for this, DirecTV Cinema. You remember DirecTV, that dish thing? You took the old dish and used it for your amateur radio use? Oh, yeah, they used to make movies, too. Limited release was on July 15th. It grossed a whole gigantic, whopping $2.1 million of mere pittance worldwide and received mixed to negative reviews. Okay, here's the trodden plot. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's very boring, but I will read you the first paragraph here, which is actually one big, well, two long run-on sentences. It says, in a futuristic dystopian society, citizens known as members live under the collective, the legislative body which monitors and controls the people's actions. Citizens are mentally stabilized in all emotions, and most illnesses are eradicated with emotion and sexual activity contrary to the society's rules. And conception is through artificial insemination via a contraception summon. Okay, that's about as far as I'm going to go with that, except that whenever they start showing emotion, it's called the switched-on syndrome, or SOS. How about that? And if things got really bad, you're sent to the defective emotional neuropathy facility, better known as the den. And, of course, this happens to our beautiful people. Bad things happen. And you can have a stage 1 disease, and you're given a prescription. You get beyond that, stage 2 and so on, bad things start happening to you, especially if you're in a movie. You get to wear monochromatic clothing. Everybody looks the same, and everybody looks terribly unhappy and, just overall just kind of emotionless. So if you had worked for a job that had that, I did, everybody pretty much dressed the same way, too. The only difference between their version of work and my version of work was where I worked, it was really, really cold. They had to wear sweaters and jackets and mucklucks and all the things that you would have to do because they never could get the air conditioning to work correctly. So these people didn't have to deal with that. In fact, they had nice little gardens they could go out to, and it really didn't actually look better than my office environment. But that's not how the story ends. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give the rules, which are real quick. Very simply, please check in with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie called Equals from 2015? And you may check in without having seen the movie. That's perfectly fine because this plot has been done so many times. You can say you saw the movie, have never seen the movie, and probably get by and we wouldn't know the difference. So put your best blinkers on for this one and be ready. We will talk about the plot, first round, second round, characterization, and acting. And the third go-around is anything you want, including special effects, music, lighting, and why did somebody write this story. All good motivators. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. Please come to your call sign, your name. Did you see tonight's movie Equals from 2015?
I am so depressed. Yeah, I saw the movie. This is Inside BB.
This is November Tango 5, Tango and Mike. Tony, here in East Dallas. I did not see the movie, but I'll be listening to find out if I should.
November Victor 5 Fox. This is Virginia. I did see the movie.
Whiskey Bravo WB5OZL. Name is Brenda, and I did see the movie.
Okay, this is who I have so far. I've got Bill, N5DB. Yep, he saw the movie. NT5TM, Tony. No, he did not see the movie. NV5F, Virginia. Yes, she saw the movie. WB5OZL, Brenda. Yes, she saw the movie. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha Kilo. No, I did not see the movie. Nick in McKinney.
All right, we picked up two more. I've got KB9SOK, Sean over in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the film. And then the next one is Nick, KJ5J, question mark K. He did not see the film. He is from Mesquite. Nick, could you give me a fill on your call again, please? You were KJ5J what?
Kilo, Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha, Kilo, Nick in McKinney.
Thank you, Nick, and I'm sorry I mangled not only your call, but your city. So I got KJ5JAK over in McKinney. And no, you did not see the film, but don't run away, because we're going to ask you at some point, do you really want to see this film or not, based on what we've mentioned. So hang in there. All right, let me look over on Echolink. There's a bunch of people there, but I'm not sure who's actually listening in. But if you're on Echolink and you would like to join us, please come now with your call sign, your name, did you see the film? I will give you extra time, because Echolink takes a little while to do all the things it does. Echolink only, please. Okay, I think the Echolink crowd has fallen into a deep, confused slumber. So we'll give them a chance later on. So let's go ahead and get started. Bill was the first one out there to admit he saw the film. So Bill, N5BB, you get to kick this thing off with, what did you think about the plot from KE5 ICX?
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. As I said earlier, I was so depressed. I think this is the most depressing movie I've ever seen. And guess what happens in it? People committing suicide, so they're depressed also. It was filmed in a way that made me feel depressed. It was like off-white and off-blue. There are only times they added a few other colors and they had some emotion. But most of the movie, it was filmed in these shades of blue and white, and just rather depressing, no emotion, because that was the whole premise of the thing. The thing that bothered me about the plot was it was awfully simple. Plot was depress people's emotions, and that's about it. Do we get to see the two characters at the end arriving in a place where people have emotions, which is what they're trying to do? No. They cut the movie off before that. They filled up with lots of depressing people walking and running around and sitting outside feeling depressed by themselves and working in a very depressive work environment. I don't know. It was very disconcerting to me. So, plot. We have Silas and Nia, and they work for Atmos, which in our universe is a North Texas or a Texas natural gas company. But there Atmos seemed to be doing like government propaganda or something. They seem to be producing these images and videos involving trying to convince the population about certain things. I think that's what I kind of read between the lines. Some parts of the movie I didn't understand very well. It's like either the audio was muddy or my brain had been muddied with all the depression, and I just couldn't understand what they were saying. When Silas and Nia were talking together, I had trouble catching everything they were saying. Maybe that's just me, but I wonder if other people had that same problem where you kind of caught a little bit of it, but you didn't catch all of what was going on there. Early on in the movie, they talked something about the peninsula where evidently the depressing, no-emotion people did not live. I didn't exactly understand what caused all this. Some kind of war or something? But some of the premise of this was a little bit muddy to me. The problem is when I think about this, going through this long plot, not much happens. Not much happens at all. So it's like oh man, where are we going with this? It's kind of stretched out, depressing, no emotion. It's just, I don't know. So anyway, that was my thought about the whole thing, was that it was a art film, a sci-fi art film. It was not designed, from my point of view, to be something that anybody would enjoy watching it. No, you're not going to enjoy this movie. It's designed to produce a very negative feeling in the observer. That's what I think inside BB.
Oh, thank you, Bill. You beat me to the punchline, though, because I was going to mention something. You said, is this really meant for the observer to be depressed? And my answer is that I watched a movie on Netflix, a science fiction film, and it had, you determine the ending of the film. And as you go through it, you hit your little remote control and say, what happens next? Does he break the television set, or does he decide to leave the room? And then you go through and you make these decisions, and then as time goes on, you're finding that the character, the main character, says, I feel like I'm being manipulated, like I should be doing one thing or the other, and I don't know why. And then you find out that was probably a decision I shouldn't have made. Maybe I should have done the other thing, and then it starts outthinking you until finally you are a part of the story, that you're controlling the story and the character is telling you this, and really like you to quit. So that was kind of a mind bender, because it really was interactive in the sense that you could have made the decisions all along the way. But that's a whole other story, an interactive one at that. Okay, next up is, I'm skipping you, Tony, because you didn't watch the film, boo-hoo. And now I'm going to Virginia, NV5F, Virginia. Tell us what you thought about the plot to our fine film Equals from 2015.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, my observation of the people around me, or that would be those of us who were on the message board or the message thread while we watched this, is that the plot at least had a structure, it had a pacing, and it must have at least been to some degree engaging, because the thread was really quiet last night. It was simple. It was definitely easy to follow. It was not original. Maybe it was an attempt at a different take on a very common plot now. I don't think this is the most depressing thing I've ever seen. There was an attempt at a hopeful ending. You know, the idea that the inevitable quote-unquote cure for the supposed disease of having feelings and any kind of passion or desire or emotion, that the cure for that could be defeated by sheer, you know, willpower. That was hinted at the end, so it left at least a little bit of room for something hopeful at the end. There were a couple of reversals that I thought were pretty decent. I am surprised. I didn't really read the synopsis. I didn't know it until you read it on the air tonight. So, and I wasn't watching the credits real closely, so I was surprised to find that this was Ridley Scott, seeing as he's like one of the big names, and this looked like a kind of a retread of his type of themes. And it was surprising to me to find that he was behind this, because everything now, even, this was 10 years ago, but everything starting after about 2010, there were just so many of these kind of, you know, medium to low budget things made that have this bland quality that you know, just strikes me as some fair to midland filmmakers with a camera package and enough of a budget for costumes and a location and an okay script. So I was surprised to find that it was, you know, associated with him, but the tone of it and the dystopian quality that's, you know, it doesn't surprise me now just because of that, but so it's kind of a little bit of both, I guess. They at least kind of took a while giving you hints as to what was happening, and it was definitely in the category of a plot that's kind of a warning about what technology and a quest for perfection could do to humanity. I wish there had been more about the place they were going, because the implication, as far as I was concerned, was that the way things were there was the way they were everywhere. There had been some kind of a war, and I guess after that war, humanity had gone into some kind of survival mode, and they had somehow decided that any kind of reproduction via you know, via coupling or emotional interaction was somehow not good because it wasn't controlled or efficient. I mean, the logic behind it is not real clear. It's not clear now. There's things that I see going on in how these kinds of things are being approached that I don't think is logical either. So I do think it's fair warning, and as I see all the fair warning of lots of other movies that came around 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, you know, I would say we definitely need to pay attention to the tendency of that runs things to find new and creative ways to convince us that we should just be, you know, kind of go along with whatever's going on. But, you know, it definitely had a message that could be interpreted various ways. That's kind of out of the scope of this round, but I don't know. I thought the plot was okay. I thought it was, you know, it wasn't very encouraging, but it did at least give a little bit of credit to the indomitability of the human spirit and the twist at the end where Nia ends up, she thinks she's going to go in and game the system by admitting that she has the quote-unquote bug, which is what they call SOS, and then be let go and basically excused from her assignment to be a vessel for conception, and so that she can finish going through with her escape with Silas. I think his name was Silas. And then it turns out, oh, we checked your blood and you're pregnant. So there was a little twist there. I thought that was a little unexpected. It wasn't surprising, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting. And the other characters helping her, the ones that were in their support group, and there's things in it that are like, I see how they could manage this, but some of it seems like, how do these people get away with this? There's such a system here, everything's so regimented. How do people get away with having these sort of secret meetings? And it seemed almost like some of the stuff they got away with was too easy. And I'm trying not to talk too much about other aspects of the movie other than the plot. But there was definitely some symbolism in coloring, what people were wearing for clothing. There was definitely an attempt, and I'll try to talk about some of those things maybe in round 3. But I thought the plot was okay. It wasn't terribly new, especially based on how many of these kinds of movies there seem to be now. I have kind of marveled at the fact that even since okay, here we go, 2001: A Space Odyssey, people have kind of envisioned, and THX and all the other movies, this one to me it doesn't really have much 2001 about it, but it's got plenty of THX 1138, Gattaca. What was the other one that Tom was mentioning? Yeah, there's just a lot of that, and I marvel at the fact that everybody envisions this future, like somehow the future is embodied by super sterile, colorless, boring, like, I don't know, I don't think things have gotten terribly boring in the last 30 or 40 years, but so many other things that people put in movies with dystopian plots, I've seen enough of the evidence that stuff is really, some of it's really close to happening in some ways, maybe not in as cut and dried a way as in the movies, but I can't see us lapsing into some kind of hyper sterile, emotionless existence, but weirder things seem to be happening. So anyway, I thought the plot was okay. I was interested. I stayed involved. It wasn't my favorite plot. I wasn't super excited or compelled by it, but I was interested in what was happening. So it was at least done in a way, and it had enough about it that was different that I stayed engaged. So back to net in V5.
About middle of the road on this, and I think most of the people that reviewed it or watched it felt the same way. Okay, Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your thoughts on the plot for tonight's movie Equals from 2015. This is KE5ICX.
This is WB. Well, wow. This was a depressing movie. But obviously that's what they're headed for. So in some ways it's very successful. It succeeded in creeping me out and making me depressed. And I mean, it was just almost perfect in how horrible it was. You could not have pushed more of my buttons of being creepy and feeling horrible and feeling depressed. This isn't just a dystopian world, you know. All these people had a soulectomy. They had them removed. There is no joy. You know, I think I come home at night, I have a cat to greet me. That's a big joy for me. And then I eat whatever I want and watch TV and listen to music and read books. And it's not an exciting life, but, you know, it's better than just working another puzzle or coming home to something with nothing on the walls at all instead of pictures of airplanes and landscapes. No flowers, no pretty clothes, no music. You know, this week I got into listening to a bunch of Beach Boys because Brian Wilson just died. This music was real important to me at one time. And you look at these people and go, what in the world could they possibly care about? And they have been deprived of anything that would bring me joy. I can't look at their lives and see anything, any part of it that I want to have anything to do with. There was nothing there to commend it. Except the food doesn't look too bad, I will say that. But I just can't believe they didn't all commit suicide. It's a depressing place. And, you know, it's all dystopian movies, I guess, are kind of, you know, trying to tell us something or teach us something or cautionary tales for us. And maybe this was the same way. It had a lot of talent, big names, and it was clearly something they put a lot of thought and effort into, and I do appreciate that. And I guess I appreciate the fact that it was cautionary. Did I enjoy it? No. Was I sorry I saw it? No, because it's something that makes you think. But boy, I don't want to go live there. Okay, back to net. WV5LZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda, and thanks for your comments. And happy to write down some notes. So next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you saw the film. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yes, I did see this movie, 50 Shades of White. That's pretty much what it was. Oh, man, was this thing depressing, as everybody's said already. Yeah, the plot was, as been mentioned, super, super simple. I actually didn't really find anything surprising in this film. It was, you know, I was able to predict she was going to get pregnant. It was easy to predict once he thought she was dead that he was going to take the therapy to go back to being, quote, normal for them. You know, so it just wasn't, you know, nothing there. It was just such a simple story and so slowly told that, yeah, it wasn't necessarily a bad plot, but the way it was told, you know, and I know they're going for the depressing feeling, or I assume so, and they did accomplish that, but it was at such a horrible pacing. You know, the part that I was somewhat disappointed with is wasn't a whole real conversation about their situation. I mean, yeah, there's some conversation, some in the group, some between those two, the couple, but for the most part, literally 50% of this movie was just them staring at each other or staring out into the lifeless situation that they were in, or the room they were in, and it just crawled. And I know that was the intention for the depressing part, but it just, for me, honestly, made for extreme boredom. It took pretty much every ounce of willpower not to put this thing at 1.5 speed, because it was just, I wanted to stay with the group last night, see what everybody said, but it was just, man, this was hard to watch because it was such a super, super slow pace. Of course, part of it, too, is, as it's already been mentioned, that this has been done so many times. And I meant to look it up before the net, but I know there was a movie that came out, I think, just 5 or 10 years before this one, that was almost 100% identical. It was even, it had the same kind of look. It was all white, sterile, but that one had a little more action to them actually trying to escape. But it's essentially the same movie, slightly different circumstances. And I can't think of the name. I can visually see the actors in it, but I can't think of the name. But anyway, so yeah, this wasn't at all original, other than I guess they were just trying to show how horrible it would be to live there in that situation. And yes, it would be. I do agree with Virginia. I think the point was this was kind of a warning, of this kind of situation with another one of those cautionary tales. I do agree that was kind of their point. But I just didn't find it particularly entertaining because of the pacing, and I felt they could have done more with it, and definitely had some deeper conversations to at least take up some of that dead space, and it definitely did need a little more action. Yes, we got some in the last 5 or 10 minutes, but that was about it. It was nice. One nice thing to say about it is I was happy with the way it ended, just because they were showing the hope that maybe he was overcoming what was done to him, and he was starting to feel something again as they were heading to the island. But that was really, for me, about the only positive in this film. So, no, let's on this one. Back to that. KB9S, okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Let me see. I'm at the bottom of the list. Nick, I haven't forgotten about you. But I will go ahead and ask if anyone else would like to join us this evening. Tonight's movie is Equals from 2015. If you're out there and you'd like to join us, whether you saw the movie or not, it's perfectly fine. Please come to your call sign, your name, and did you see Equals from 2015? I'll take additional check-ins at this point. Okay, I think it's going to be one of those evenings, and that's perfectly okay. So, Nick, in case you haven't dozed off, KJ5JAK, what do you think? Is this a movie you would like to see, or does it remind you of something you've seen in the past, and what did you think about that from KE5ICX? Alright, I know what happens late at night. Everybody falls asleep. I fell asleep during this movie last night, so I'm guilty as charged. Alrighty, well, let me go ahead and give you my point in this. Here's the thing. We spent a lot of time doing world building that was really a flimsy structure. We've seen this stuff before, a million times before. In fact, I think, what is it, Idiocracy, which is a comedy, just takes this plot and just runs with it. I mean, you already have that going on. They don't even question it. That's the whole point of the film, is everybody turns into a blithering idiot and can't think for themselves, so you take advantage of them. That's what makes it so funny. So you don't spend a lot of time dwelling on the situation or the world building. It's already there. The joke is in the fact that we've seen this story over and over and over again, and And how would somebody who's got a sliver of common sense be able to take and manipulate it? That makes that movie funny, and it makes it relevant because we've seen all this before, and many times we've lived it. Now, here's something I was thinking of. Here's a real-life example. When the Soviet Union fell, a lot of people from Russia or from the former Soviet Union immigrated to the United States. They were no longer a lot of smart people, and they immigrated to the United States around the world because they could. They were scientists and people with great educations, but did not have the latest technology in some cases because it was hidden from them or they did not have access to it. One of those things is CAD/CAM, which is computer-aided mechanics being able to create engineering diagrams and devices and things in 3D. And one of the things that they discovered with CAD/CAM with Russians is that Russian engineers were able to learn it very quickly. And the reason why was because they had learned in the wilds of Soviet structure to be able to work around the system, to make things work and to do it quickly, because that's what you had to do. If you wanted something to eat or you needed something that was specific, you instantly went to your own scruples and figured out, how do you get around it? How do you get what I need? And in CAD/CAM, because there's multiple ways of getting to a solution, they were able to pick up the software and use it very quickly because they were used to having roadblocks and problems and working around it and being due diligent enough so that there was a reward at the other end. That's taking a dystopian society, and in this case, taking and using it to an advantage. And this would be something where you kind of turn it on its side. But we didn't get any of that. We spent all our time looking at the beautiful shots of the dimly lit streets and lights and the new structure, the society, the modern society with no emotion. Well, you could do that in about 40 seconds and be able to tell the story. But as with many science fiction films, they fall into the trap. We've got to put everything that we did, that we manufactured, and put it on the screen, which means that all of the visuals have to be there. Now, this film doesn't have all the digital blow-em-ups and explosions and stuff, but it had everything else, all the scenery, the lighting, the things in the background, that literally the window dressing comes out. Now, is it entirely fair from a story standpoint? We had sort of a Romeo and Juliet story that ended with a happy ending. That's okay, I suppose. And I think younger people might enjoy the film. I don't know. Because it'd be more relevant. We have young people on screen, and that might make a difference. It is a romantic story of sorts, if you want to call it that. And the reviews I saw were mostly positive from some people, and I suspect that's who they were. They were a younger audience. As you get older and grumpier, you don't see it that way anymore, I guess. But in any case, maybe that's what it is. The last few minutes of the film, I finally, when I woke up and went to bed, I watched the rest of the film the next day after getting 7 hours sleep, and I was able to actually enjoy the last 20 minutes or so of the film. So that was good, but then what do we do with the other, 80-plus minutes of film that we watched? I don't know. In any case, so that's what I was thinking. Visually great, slow pacing, and let's see, stereotype. Oh, one more thing too is that we've got Ridley Scott, who he was the executive producer. Now you had producers and everything. He may have just oversaw that the movie itself, but had no creative input. Although I think he did. But his own Blade Runner, which was a film that was really based around detective story film noir, in a dystopian society. His was grimy and old and falling apart, but it told the story, and it said something about, the human characters were more robotic and not as passionate as they could have been, although the Blade Runner character actually came around towards the end. And we learned that the androids had more emotions than the humans did, that living meant more because they had a 5-year lifespan. We had a purpose and a story in the dystopian society that really worked. We had a purpose. We had a vested interest in those characters, more so than the humans. So I don't know. There's definitely something missing, and the very core of the story itself is the reason that it's missing. Is that the whole premise shouldn't be about the film. Maybe that's why we're manipulated. That the film doesn't provide us with any sort of outlet that even the characters don't get it and we don't get it. So we're all trapped in this film. That's what I feel. Okay, that's it for me on that one. Let's go to the top. And next up is characterization. I probably blew it a little bit on some of that because that's my main beef in this movie is characterization or lack thereof. So, Bill, N5BB, go ahead. You're up. Characterization, what do you think?
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. And for people listening, this is the Afterglow net. Run by the Dallas Image Radio Club, a Navy Repeater. Characterization. Well, I was bothered, and this kind of fits into the plot, too. It's hard for me to separate here. To me, they stretched out the movie because they didn't want to complete it. The thing that they tricked us into thinking we were going to see is what was going to happen when Silas and Nia get to the peninsula. What's going to happen? Are they going to be happy? Are they going to be able to lead fulfilled lives? Will other people be there? We didn't get any of that. We were promised it earlier in the movie, but to me, they let us down. Yeah, they did. I think they chickened out, and they just chopped the movie off at the point where I thought it was going to get interesting. That's what bothers me so much about it. One of the things that bothers me so much about this movie is that I don't consider the ending of it a positive thing. So look at the last scene, and this is characterization of these characters as they're changing. What are we led to believe? That Silas has had the treatment, and it's been more than whatever it was, 5 or 8 hours or something. So now he's got no emotions. But evidently, for some reason, which isn't clear, he remembers that he had made some arrangement with her to go somewhere else. And I don't know why, but he's trying to follow through on it. One thing that bothers me about this, I'm going to put this in the characterization, is that it's nearly like the characters have no personal ability. They have no control over their lives. So it's unclear to me how much control these people have over their own lives. It's nearly like they're living in a fog. They're kind of moving around, eating and going to work, and doing these things they're supposed to be doing, but they don't seem to have any agency, very much personal agency. It's been sucked out of them. And so at the end of the movie, I'm a little confused about why Silas is bothering to go with Nia. The other character, I can't remember his name, the guy in the little secret meeting that he told on them. You know, he told the powers that be, and so they after he was treated. Why didn't Silas do the same thing? If the other guy had done that when he was treated, why didn't Silas just take Nia in and turn her in? I didn't understand that. And does that mean the treatment wasn't completely active on Silas? Well, they chopped the movie off. We don't learn that. And at the end of the movie, I think we're led to believe that we're supposed to get some big emotion. We, the viewer, is supposed to get some big emotional release from the fact that Silas moves back in the train and sits next to Nia. Well, big deal. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean to me that things are really resolved. That was pretty minor. Again, I don't think they didn't show what happened with these characters. So we talk about characters evolving or changing. Well, they seem to be changing, and then they chop the movie off and don't let us see the resolution. So I didn't like that. What else can I say about characterization? Evidently, these people had no parents, no children, not really any friends. Okay? We didn't see them going out and doing something that was fun or related to any kind of interpersonal relationships because they're not supposed to have any, I guess. They talked about Nia lying, saying she had been at a Tai Chi or some other kind of exercise thing. We didn't see any of that. And we're led to kind of imagine what might have happened at that. And some other character, a girl, evidently liked for her. Well, why? Didn't really seem in character. I think they were toying with us. I think they were toying with us where they're trying to say that everybody had no emotion, but the movie director is trying to say, well, maybe they really do, but they're covering it up. So I wasn't entirely convinced about what the people that produced this movie really were trying to get across. They were being a little sly about that. If they stuck right to the party line, then no, the other character would not have lied for Nia. And no, when Silas had had the treatment at the end, he would have turned Nia in. He wouldn't have gone with her. So I don't know. Weird. Again, because these characters have no lives other than mechanically moving around, they might as well be some pre-programmed robots with no free will. Again, free will was the term I was looking for earlier. They seem to have no free will. Anyway, I guess that's it for this section. N5DB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And you gave me a headache because all of your comments are very valid. It just reminds me of watching a time travel story and trying to unravel the paradox that it always creates. There's a paradox here with how do you make a movie about non-emotion without emotion? And if you do have emotion, is it genuine or not? I think that's what you're positing here. Okay. Next up is Tony. He's listed here, even though you didn't see the movie. Tony, wake up, run back to the microphone, back to your radio, and tell us, is this a movie you would see, and does it remind you of some other terrible movie you've seen? NT5TM from KE5ICX.
Hey, Tom, I have been listening. So far, I have been uninspired, although I have had a few fun thoughts. Talking about people who are supposed to have emotions, oddly enough, made me think of the movie Demolition Man, where everyone is very calm, and one of the most polite things you can say to people is, mellow greetings. Not supposed to get too excited to see someone. Or, and of course, Sandra Bullock repeatedly says to Sylvester Stallone, enhance your calm, John Spartan. You can't make emotionless humans. And Demolition Man was just a fun, goofy movie. I don't know if I'd call it a good one. I sure would call it a fun one, though. Anyway, I think I'm going to give this one a pass. I don't think the premise is very believable in an extreme dystopia, but I think I'm going to watch another movie with a more fun dystopia in it soon. NT5TM.
I think you've chosen wisely, Tony, although it's worth it just to take a look and take some quick shots of some of the cinematography in it. Yes, it's very monochromatic, but it's got some nice visuals, although they are way too long. Some people didn't like the music. It was sort of a new age score, which I didn't mind. Actually, that I think is what put me to sleep last night. It was very soothing. There is a part where they go through some sort of turnstile check-in process with that dinging and bonging in the background through the first half of the movie is enough to cause you to just go insane. So skip that part. But it might be worth it for that. At least look at the visuals. I think Ridley Scott had something to do with the visuals on that one. Okay, next up is Virginia, ND5F. Virginia, your thoughts on characterization and acting, of course, from KE5ICX.
Okay, characterization and stuff. First, I will have to suggest to Tony, Idiocracy. It's a dystopian movie that's funny and terrifying at the same time. And I can start from there because that movie comes at this from the complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is pacifying everybody, not by taking away their emotions, but by completely gratifying them into a stupor, which is, I think, closer to what we're doing right now. But it might be in the name of secretly doing the other stuff that we're doing in this movie. I don't know. It's so funny how some movies and directors get passes for the things that this movie is getting criticized for, and I'm only saying that more objectively because it's not a movie I really necessarily want to watch again. But to say, oh, those shots were beautiful, but they were way too long, or oh, those, I'm not sure exactly what this was supposed to mean. I think those things are fine as long as you know what's going on, as far as the plot itself. You can follow what's happening. It can even be a little confusing and a little open-ended. I don't really have a problem with that kind of stuff in a movie like this. This movie is, it's one of those. It's the times. We've got this nihilistic sort of interpret what this could be about. I think it was fairly clear what the characters were and what their objectives were, and I thought that the acting was fine. Bill, I think, mentioned earlier how hard it was to hear. There was a lot of whispery dialogue that I found difficult to hear, probably because it was whispery and had a lot of bass at the same time. So some of the actual acting was kind of obscured maybe by or it was all acting. You knew what their feelings were, but sometimes you weren't sure what they were saying because they were so subtle and so quiet, and they were so to themselves, trying so hard to be, keep what they were doing a secret. So of course, naturally, in real life, they would be talking quietly or whatever. So there was a lot of that. I thought the acting was fine. I thought the characters were, you have to have at least some kind of good acting if everybody's dressed the same and they have this sort of subdued way they do everything because they've been conditioned genetically from before the time they were born, to be emotionless. But this does beg the question of telling a story of characters without emotions. We can highly criticize a movie like this about that and completely give something like Star Trek a pass on that. One of the most problematic things in Star Trek from the very beginning is Mr. Spock. You can't really, we as human beings who have emotions, unless we have some kind of dissociative problem or detachment, or on some kind of a spectrum of personality difficulty where we can't express emotions or we are, isolated from them by stress or whatever. Generally, we can't really conceive of being unemotional, and that's, I think, the main problem with something like this. But I think the whole point of it is the underlying idea that you can't, even if you try to genetically engineer emotions out of people, and they're supposed to all function without emotions, there will be lots of inconsistency. There's just no way around it. The boss guy is domineering. This person acts this way, that person acts that way. Everybody has personality. Well, our personalities are usually defined by how we express emotion, or how we try to hide it. I just spent my vacation with two people known for a long time, and they're both kind of introverted. I'm the most extroverted of the three of us, and it's interesting how when you know people that long, when you get around them, you don't see them all that often, but when you get around them, when you first know them, you're kind of put off by, oh, wow, these people are really, they're really extroverted and you are introverted, and you almost think they're sort of bland people. And then after you know them for a long time, you figure out they're very interesting people, but you don't know them well enough at first to read their emotions. So I think that's kind of the point of this movie, is that these people can't be divorced from their emotions. The ending implies that there could be some kind of, that the cure, quote-unquote, could simply be, one more ploy. It could be a placebo effect, or it could be something that is untested, and they can't guarantee that it will absolutely cure everybody. It could be something that they're told is going to cure them, to just pacify them a little bit longer. I think the ending was like a lot of endings. I've seen quite a few movies with that kind of an ending where a character loses their memory, or they sort of start over, and at first you think they're lost, their personality's lost, or their qualities are lost, but somehow they're still in there somewhere, and it's a hopeful sort of thing. And like I said, this is not the most hopeful or uplifting thing in the universe, but I didn't find the ending to be particularly crazy. I thought it was, I would have liked to see the new wonderful place they were going. It makes me wonder how this place and some other place could be coexist, in that close of a proximity where you could just get on a train and go to the other better place, and why don't more people do that instead of committing suicide? So I think there's some definite issues with the plot, but the characters I found, I found them not terrible. They were as interesting as they could be in this scenario, and I might have missed something. Bill said something about some character, like telling on some other character, ratting him out or something. I need to watch it again maybe if I missed that, but I know that it's easy to accidentally let things slip or whatever, and you end up accidentally betraying someone you didn't mean to betray. But anyway, I found it was fine. The actors were good. Of course, they were beautiful people. Everybody in this was beautiful and perfect, but that's to be expected in a genetically engineered world as well. And I did notice some color keying to characters as they were changing. As the guy Silas changed his job, he ended up in a more earthy job. He became a gardener, which can go along with the whole changing of his personality as he was discovering his humanity. He went to a more down-to-earth, quote-unquote, career, and his clothing color changed from monochrome white to kind of a neutral beige color, and there started to be more color in the lighting of the movie based on what the characters were going through and how their personalities were changing. That was pretty obvious, but it's kind of round 3 stuff. But I did find this visually interesting. I mean, if Ridley Scott is behind it, it's going to have some production value and be kind of interesting to look at. And I did find that was to be the case. So I may mention a little more about that in round 3. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Very interesting. Okay, next is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your thought on characterization and acting. WB50ZL, you're being called.
This is WB50ZL. These characters were rather hard for me to relate to because they were just so flat and boring, and they weren't fun and they weren't funny. I felt very sorry for them. That's about all I can say, is that there wasn't anybody in this that was much fun or interesting or that I would want to be friends with. And it's the only time the two main characters ever laughed is when they were together, and then they found some joy. But I think they were well cast. They were good actors. That's all I'll say. All right, back to that, WB50ZL.
Okay, well, that was short and sweet. Next is Sean, KB9SOK. Same question to you.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, when your characters have had their emotions stripped away, there's not much of a personality, which means there's not much of a character. So they were all basically the same, which was the point, other than we had our small group that did have the SOS. To your one point there, Bill, yes, I do think that they were trying to show that there was small moments where all the people did have some kind of minor emotion. and I think they were just hiding it. I think one of the good samples of that is when the boss of those two discovered them and basically called out Cyrus and said, "Hey, I know what you guys are doing, but you should probably stop." You know, at that point, he should have turned him in, but obviously he showed that he did have some sympathy for them, which once again is an emotion. So, you know, I think there was some level of it was shown by some of the characters. As other people's points is already made, you know, it would be near impossible, I think, to completely erase emotions from humans. It's just such a core part of us. There would just, well, we wouldn't exist anymore. And what would be the point of anything? You know, because they are basically just machines at that point. But yeah, so the characters, I mean, our two main characters did go through a transition. I do think it was well acted. I don't got any problem with the acting in this film. But for me, it was just too much of a one-note, slow burn. Is the only reason I didn't really enjoy it. Not because it was because of the actors, but yeah, I agree with everybody on the fact that it would have been nice had we seen the island part, and I think that would have picked up the pacing. Instead of spending almost 2 hours just dragging through what little plot they had, they could have had the last half an hour of it, at least on the island, showing how that impacted them. But I don't know. Maybe they were planning on a sequel. Let's hope not. Anyway, now let's see on this round either. Back to net, KB9S, okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Interesting. Let me go ahead and ask anyone else out there who would like to join us this evening. If you're out there, you can check in now. Tonight's movie is Equals from 2015. Science fiction, monochromatic, dystopian nightmare. If that sounds like you and you'd like to check in, please come with your call sign, name, and did you see our film? Okay, as I suspected. Well, let's see. What did I think about the characters? Silas, Nia, they were okay. I didn't mind them. I'll go with what Bill said and what Virginia said. They were reasonably okay characters. Nothing wrong with them. They're easy on the eyes, of course. They're young. And they're having a romantic fling of sorts and trying to, understand their emotions and what's going on, and that's perfectly fine, and I thought that was interesting. The ending, of course, didn't give us much to go on. Maybe, I guess, love conquers all, and whatever form that was. Yeah, maybe. And, of course, leaving the ending to you. How happy is the ending? Up to the audience is not a unique trick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it backfires, sometimes it does both. People like the idea of imagining how things turned out in the end, and that's fine. If the setup works, if it does not, or you don't feel like you've got enough information to complete the story, then you feel cheated. And I suspect this one, because it's so middle of the road as far as some people liked it, some people did not, that you would get that mixed result, because it just didn't quite go over the line for everybody. Characterization, I always liked David Selby as he played Leonard as a relatively minor character. And he was fine, and he was likable to a point. All the other characters, pretty much forgettable. The Guy Pearce character as Jonas was interesting. Some people who saw this movie didn't even recognize Guy Pearce. He was kind of a commodity about 10 years ago, more like 15 years ago. And I I haven't seen him in anything recently. He's always entertaining. He plays usually really over-the-top characters. In this case, he did not. So that was unusual seeing him that way. And I think he did a pretty fair job through it. The rest of the characters, pretty much forgettable. Sorry, nobody was very interesting to me beyond that. I don't remember anything about them, to be honest with you, except everybody had lunch. Looked like everybody was hungry. At least he got to eat a lot there. One thing on plot or story that was interesting is, and I forgot to mention this before, is I was trying to understand why the characters who work in the drafting, digital creation department, whatever it is, the Hallmark greeting card section at Atmos, they would create these magnificent illustrations, and yet they're all depressed. Man, that's got to be tough if you're creative. Maybe they, there's no artwork anywhere. None of their artwork actually gets to be put up anywhere where they can see it. So that was probably depressing. But by the way, those walls with the little indented holes in them for where they mount the concrete walls, part of brutalism from the 1970s. God, I hate that. I had to go to office buildings like that. So I couldn't empathize with the non-empathetic characters. Okay, well, let's see. We've got 9 more minutes. All right, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens with this one. I'll go down the list here with those who saw the film. So we'll go with Bill, N5DB. Bill, your final comments on our fine film this evening.
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5DB. The clothing, at first I thought it was going to be everybody was wearing the same white clothing, but there were some subtle differences. The kind of enforcer people had little black kind of stripy things, and the medical people were a little different, and then the gardeners obviously had these different colored clothes. I guess because they were more of a service, or of a lower class of citizen. You know, when Silas was trying to change jobs, you know, he was interviewing about doing that, and the other person said, well, you know, that other job isn't as good a job. Nobody likes it. So I think that they had a subtle classism, where everybody wearing these mostly white things was the middle class, regular citizens with a capital C, and these people wearing the brown were lower class people that weren't good enough to do the citizens' jobs. That's what I think. I thought it was interesting that apparently they had unisex bathrooms, because both Silas and Nia got together in the same bathroom, but it didn't seem to be separated by men and women. I think it was a unisex bathroom. Restroom, I should say, a restroom. His apartment or his dwelling was rather odd. Utilitarian, I mean, what you needed to live with a small L. That's like eat, breathe, sleep, maybe. Did you notice that he could reconfigure it for eating or something else? Things moved around to reconfigure it. So a very utilitarian future. Although, I don't know, there wasn't any fun aspect to any of that. At some point, they had some music that sounded like some kind of classical music or something. But I didn't get the idea that there was a wide range of music and people were interested in music, or nobody seemed to be watching fictional things. They did mention that some of these storyboard things the Atmos creating were nonfiction, and evidently some were fiction. So there was some fictional things and non-fictional things they were creating, but I didn't see any what we would call movies or books or things of that nature. So there didn't seem to be any real entertainment. They were kind of propaganda things, I believe. That's what I got the idea, was the Atmos was like producing essentially propaganda. This is a very Big Brother kind of thing where, you know, announcements appear on the on these boards and overhead audios where you scan in and somebody, the scanner will tell you if, nope, you're rejected because you're pregnant or something like that. But I don't know. It was a very weird environment, let's put it that way. I also noticed that nearly everybody was young to maybe approaching middle-aged adults. No kids, no young people, no really young people. I mean, younger than, I don't know, early 20s. The oldest person I remember seeing was the woman doctor. I don't see any other old people. You would think in a society in the future, everybody would be old. But no, that wasn't the case. I don't know what happened when people got older. Did they not live very long? It wasn't obvious to me. I guess that's it. Dystopian with a capital D. This is in 5BB. I have one other question. Why was it called Equals? Equals with an S. Why was it named that in 5BB?
Bill, I covered you over. I thought you were done. What was your last comment?
Yeah, I forgot to ask it. Why was the name Equals, EQUALS? I didn't really figure out why they called it Equals. Was everybody supposed to be equal in 5BB?
Well, that was my assumption. I never took it any deeper than that, so I don't know. Okay, next up, Virginia, NG5F, Virginia. Your final thoughts. You're up.
Okay, I agree with you. It was just called Equals because the whole point of this society was to make everybody the same. That's why they had unisex bathrooms, they had no emotion, they had no relationships. You can't have friendships or relationships without emotions. It's impossible. So that's why nobody had any friends, nobody had any fun, you couldn't touch people, you couldn't laugh or smile because that's emotion. You can't have fiction because fiction evokes emotions. All the children were probably in little farms or schools where as soon as they were born, they were, you know, put in these sterile environments. Nobody had parents. Nobody had children. They just had, you know, people that were used as vessels to produce them, and then they were probably raised by a bunch of computers or older people who taught them or whatever. And I'm sure once they got to be a certain age, they were just, you know, taken away somewhere and gotten rid of. So that stuff to me isn't that hard to really, I don't have any trouble imagining where all the old people and young people are in this, you know, situation. It's one of the stock kind of, you know, we've had Soylent Green, we've had Logan's Run, we've had THX 1138, you know, it's almost like Tom was talking about, the environment of this kind of precludes any explanation because we've seen so many of these kind of movies. We don't really need that explanation anymore. It's almost like a genre unto itself. A genre that I've never particularly cared for. Even back when they made movies like this, that did have good music and lighting and interesting feelings and plot lines. I've never much cared for this kind of speculative fiction. I do think it's kind of a warning, but it's also just, I think it's an analogy, for socialism and the dangers of that kind of flawed ideal of equal everything, equal income, equal outcome, equal, class level, classless society, the government distributes everything. It just doesn't work. And I think that's kind of what a lot of these things can be an analogy for. I do think that it could have been told in a way that was more emotionally appealing for the emotional people watching it. And I really don't care for this. I remember when I think it was when I first moved to this house, and my brother wanted to watch the movie Gattaca, and he acted like, oh, it was this great movie. It was his favorite one of his favorite movies, and I found it so dreary and horrible. I've never watched it since, and it was kind of a prelude to this sort of genre. I don't really care for minimalism, and I don't care for that in music. I don't care for it in aesthetic. I don't care for it in storytelling, and it's become very popular. And most movies that have this feel to them, I'll sit through it once, but that's about it for me because it has zero appeal. There's nothing compelling about it. There's nothing for me to grab hold of, or even if it's got a decent lesson or something to it, just don't really care for it. I particularly do not like the modern style of music, the flatness of the aesthetic of this was very interesting, though. I thought their attempt at this kind of future had a different aesthetic style, even though it was still that clean, sort of white and gray and monochrome. I did find some of their graphic choices interesting, and their visual choices were more interesting than I've seen in a lot of these kind of movies. So anyway, this is a one-time only for me, but I wasn't completely disinterested in it, in V5F.
Thank you, Virginia. And everybody, it's after midnight, so remember, be aware that the timer is back on the repeater, so you may get timed out. So drop carrier a couple of times when you speak so that you don't shut the repeater down. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL, your final comments from KE5 ICX.
This is WB50ZL. I'm reminded of a story I heard once, and I may have told this before, so forgive me if I have. In World War II, those wacky Germans did an experiment with some infants. They were put into a facility at birth, and the experiment was the caretakers would feed and bathe and change and take care of them, but not speak to them, no language at all. The experiment was, gee, I bet they'll just spontaneously start speaking German when they get old enough. They didn't, because none of them lived long enough to learn to speak. They all died. Without human contact and connection, babies not only don't thrive, but they just simply wither away. And you wonder why this society was even still there without any kind of human connection. There's just nothing to live for. So it would be interesting to see what they did with their babies and how they were raised. And and they never explain how these people got this way. whether they used to be like us and something changed them, or then maybe they were always this way. I'm not even sure if it was on lost my train. I don't think they ever explain that to us, is that you know, if they even are on Earth, if they actually are humans. They never explain to us what happened to them to go so far astray and so wrong. And certainly not the world I want. It just makes me want to laugh and see color and smell flowers and enjoy all my senses. Back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you. Well, I think maybe I'll venture a guess on that is that they had nuclear war or something, or war, and having emotions and getting passionate about stuff usually gets you in trouble, but that's just an overly simplistic thought on my part. Okay, next up is Sean, TV9SOK. Sean, your parting shot for tonight from KE5 ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think actually the aesthetics, as much as we joked about it, I do think it was, accurate and correct for this movie. Just because, once again, if you have no emotions, why would you, you're not going to have a favorite color, so why would you paint anything other than white? It's because after all, it's personal preferences is why we pick different colors and stuff. Well, once again, if you don't have any personality, you don't need anything else. So obviously, I think they did a good job on that because it definitely carried the theme of the movie through. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of special effects really in this movie other than just, the aesthetics, and I think it matched what they were trying to do. I do agree the audio at times was rough. They had a tendency to play the background noise and music at a level that it made the voices at times hard to hear. So that could have been improved. But other than that, not a lot to say about this movie. So yeah, looking forward to the next one. Enjoyed everybody's conversation. Thanks. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, very good, Sean. Thanks for your comments. Thanks to everybody for your comments this evening. My final comments, I think visually the film was great. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry, I was one of those people that probably, some scenes run too long. Yes, I love Stanley Kubrick stuff, but even Eyes Wide Shut, which is still a very good film, scenes ran too long for that. 2001, not so much, because I think that helped. The aesthetic was a part of it. Blade Runner is another example. That's a longer film, longer scenes, maybe not a longer film, but longer scenes, but that aesthetic also worked. And if you watch the television version of Blade Runner, they add to those scenes a little too long. They actually run too long. Which is interesting. Long scenes that run even longer that are now too long. That is possible. If you ever see the television version of Blade Runner, you'll see what I'm talking about. I think those have been buried in a cornfield somewhere. I don't think you'll ever see those ever again. Next week's movie is, everybody ready? Let me drop carrier. You've asked for it, you get it. Next week will be Spaceballs. Spaceballs was just today. There was an announcement that we're getting Spaceballs 2 from Mel Brooks. That'll be in a couple of years. Hopefully Mel and Spaceballs will still be around then, because Mel is, 98 years old? At any rate, that's it. Next week is Spaceballs, so be ready. I'm going to go and watch a little bit of Lost in Space. It is the first episode. They're just about to blast them off right now. And Star Trek over on MeTV also had its first episode. The Man Trap was on tonight. So both series synchronized their 3-season finale with the last episode last week and the first episode this week. I'm sure it's completely random. See y'all next time. This is KE5ICX saying bye-bye. And remember to buy bonds. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at the end of June. See you later. This is KE5ICX. Now clear.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This combination I sit on all my luggage. Aaron will be overjoyed. NT5TM.
Baseballs 2, the search for more cash.
Baseballs, the flamethrower. Kids are going to love this one. NT5TM, good night.
Good night. I'm on the fence about a sequel. I'm so tired of sequels, especially sequels to 40-year-old movies. That might be one I can't resist, though, in V5F.